Hey, I'm Kai Down, and today I'm checking out a wonderful rat-derived drive pedal by the folks over at GUP. I want to start by mentioning the price of the GUP Pylo Rats pedal, as this is very pertinent to the argument about whether or not you should purchase this versus the regular Proco Rat 2. The regular Proco Rat is £77 currently here in the UK, while the GUP Pylo Rats is £73. So they're about like for like, and I expect this to fluctuate due to exchange rates and whatever, but you can essentially think of these as the same price. For a quick overview, the Pylo Rats is of course based on the Rat circuit, however it's had quite a few tweaks under the hood. It has extra clipping diode selectors, which is a major modification that a lot of people do to their original Rat circuits. You have the original clipping diode, you have LED, and you have dual clipping diodes. Essentially, this lets you pick from the standard Rat, the turbo Rat, and the solo Rat. This one also has a sweep knob which controls the mid-frequency. It's something that I haven't seen on other Rat-based circuits, and I'm excited to see what it's all about. Other than that, it's got all these same controls from a Rat that you know and love: gain, volume, and filter. For the rig today, I'm running my PRS S2 into the DSL20 head, then I'm running out into the Sur load box and out to my DAW where I'm loading up the ML Sound Lab Mars TV Mix Steep Impulse Response. This is how it sounds with the drive pretty much all the way back and the master up just above 12. I'm going to start with a basic sort of A-B comparison between the Proco Rat and the GUP, before I get into all of the extra expanded things that the GUP has to offer. I reckon the best way to go about comparing the two would be to dial in a tone on the Proco Rat and then try and match it on the GUP. So I'll start with a fairly low gain tone and then we'll work our way up through the different things that the Rat has to offer. I think they're fairly close. It sounds like the GUP is a little bit more distorted and has a little bit more high end to it that I couldn't quite dial out with the filter knob. Let's go for the same thing again, but we'll dial in a higher gain tone on the Rat and see if we can match that instead. This is going to be the standard Rat distortion sort of thing. Again, I'd say they're fairly close, and in a pinch you could pretty much pick either and be happy with them. So as much as I didn't expect them to be completely one for one, they do have a couple of little differences there that I noted. The GUP is a little bit more aggressive even when the distortion is about matched. Let's now do a fully high gain, blown out fuzzy wall thing. This is my favourite place for a Rat to sit, so I'm keen to see how they both hold up. I'd say overall the GUP doesn't fart out quite as much as the original Rat does. It's a bit more punchy and a bit more cutting. You really get a lot more definition out of it, specifically in this tone, so I do think it can go either way. I am going to run a couple more tests versus the real Rat later on in this video, but for now I just want to dial in the things that are featured on the GUP pedal that aren't on the original Rat. The first is going to be the mid-sweep knob. This is something that I sort of struggled with in my unboxing of this pedal, but I've since gotten to grips with it a little better. The main thing to note here is that the bulk of the tone shift happens in the first sort of 15% change in the knob. So with the sweep knob all the way down, this is the stock rat setting, and as soon as you start turning it up, it loses a little bit of that grindy sort of sound you get. I haven't run this through an EQ or anything like that to triple check my workings, but it does sound like as you turn this one up, the mids shift lower. Let's hear what that one's doing. I'm going to shift through it fairly slowly. As you probably heard, it is really in that first 15% where you cut out that harshness, and then everything from there is sort of the same-ish, which is why I struggled to dial it in my first demo. I'll quickly do a test where I'm just chugging on the low strings and I shift from 0 to 1 on this sweep knob so you can hear what I'm talking about a little bit more. So while the bulk of this video has been on the stock clipping diode selector to match the Proco Rat 2, we'll now switch over to one of the other two modes this pedal has available. The center clipping position is LED, which I believe to be the Turbo Rat. This should have a drier distortion sort of sound and be less fizzy than the original Rat circuit. I'll dial up the distortion fairly high so that we can hear the differences between the clipping circuits, and then do a full comparison after I've shown you the third mode. Now we'll try out the final clipping mode. This I think is based on the Solo Rat. This is a dual clipping diode. Let's now hear the differences between these three clipping modes. I am going to have to normalize all of the volumes in post as different clipping diode selectors have different volumes. That's completely normal. The last thing I want to try in terms of Proco Rat versus Pylo Rats is running it in a stack. For this, I'm going to use the Holy Island Audio Spectral Fire overdrive pedal. This is based on a Blues Breaker sort of thing paired with a Trainer TS50B. However, before I add that overdrive into the mix, there is just one cool thing I want to try out. I want to try running the Pylo Rats into the Proco Rat and see what sort of tones I can get out of it. That was an awful lot of fun, but completely irrelevant to this part of the conversation. Anyway, I'm going to run the Spectral Fire into the Proco Rat and then try and match it with the GUP Tech again. Again, I think the GUP just about edged it out there. It had a little bit more clarity about it that I was really enjoying. I really don't think there's all that much in it, however the GUP just gives you a little bit of extra control with the sweep knob that I found really useful. So let's get on to a conclusion of sorts. Now this video is sponsored by GUP as they have sent me over this one for review. However, as always, I like to keep my opinions honest, keep the pros and cons as unbiased as I possibly can. I am really enjoying the GUP Pylo Rats. I don't think it's a perfect one-to-one for the original, however it can do everything the original can do. Strictly speaking in terms of like original tone that is, so it can do the overdrive, the distortion, the fuzz, it can handle all of the same brackets of tone that the original can, and oftentimes it can do it better. I think the only time that the GUP sort of fell a little bit short was in the super low gain area. As for the pros and cons, I think it's worth mentioning that the GUP is more pedalboard friendly, as it doesn't have the protruding feet and battery door that the original Rat has. It's also supporting a small Canadian business, which at this point in time is currently something that we should all be looking to do. That's not to say that the original Proco Rat isn't worth buying though. There are some big benefits to using this original pedal. The Rat has a proven history of durability. These things will survive being driven over by a car, and even in the unlikely event that it does break, you'll be able to get a replacement just about anywhere. It's a more iconic, staple, relatable sort of pedal that everyone will know and recognize instantly. It's also got a glow-in-the-dark logo and glow-in-the-dark knobs, which is something that actually really benefits this pedal on a dark stage. Perhaps a silly little thing, but a cool feature nonetheless that I think more people should know about. That's all for this video though, so thank you ever so much for sticking around to the end. I do really appreciate it. I have affiliate links in the description box down below, so if you're ever picking anything up from Gear for Music or Tomman, I'd appreciate it if you could do so through those links. I'll also leave a link to GUP website if you wanted to buy the Pylo Rats for yourself, or just have a browse through their 300 plus pedals that they have available. It's a fantastic way to go window shopping and waste an awful lot of time. If you feel like dropping me a subscribe, it'd be absolutely huge for me. I've got another GUP demo coming up in the near future that if you enjoyed this one, you are sure to love the next one. Until next time though, I've been Kai.